So, Roth, have you ever seen 2006's The Tripper?
No, but I was actually interested in it. I remember hearing about it when it came out. I thought it was a little clever idea for a slasher.
Do you know who the writer director is? Don't you?
Is it Arquette? I know he was
It
involved.
is. It is Dewdrop himself. I
That's
have to
probably why
say,
I didn't watch it.
I've got to say, a shocking confession. I am a pretty big fan of Ready to Rumble. I am a fan of Ravenous. I am a fan of Scream, and I think this could be his singular, and by that I mean like his sole vision, not where he's part of a collective. Greatest achievement to the horror genre. Like it's definitely, you can tell, it's David Arquette, but it doesn't necessarily suck because of it.
I don't think he sucks. It's just, when I hear he was attached as a writer-director, that doesn't
Yeah, yeah.
exactly instill confidence. You know what I mean? I'm a big Scream fan myself. Yeah, shit. I love Ravenous. I wouldn't really credit much to him in Ravenous, but
Yeah, but
he was in it.
he is involved, so
He was
he
in.
gets the
I'm
nod.
actually a fan of Bone Tomahawk. He's in that as well.
That one was too long for me, but uh, as for him being the writer and stuff, I guess he actually got the concept for it outside at a party. He was like at some reggae party, and he looked over at the woods like, man, I wonder if some dude ran out of the woods and just started hacking all these hippies up. And that's where he got the idea for the movie from. I guess it is technically kind of a political movie because it's a Reagan killer running around, but he doesn't really try to like dwell on it. Like there's a brief bit about like, oh, we let crazy people out and shit like that, but it's not like, it's not necessarily. And I guess there are a couple of jabs, but it is okay. There's a few political messages in it, but I can look past those. Uh, the German title of this film, I believe, is in every way better. The German release was titled President Evil. Uh, I'm if a blue release exists that's playable in America, I might just fucking grab that because that's brilliant. Do you know anyone who's in it? Like, do you know anything about the cast, or do you just know Arquette was involved in loosely what the concept is?
I just remember loosely. It's like Ronald Reagan, acid horror, some shit like that.
Yeah, the basic concept is, I mean, it's standard horror movie fare. Some kids are going to a big hippie drug festival out in the middle of the woods. Slasher shows up, shit goes wrong. However, where this movie is extremely strong is the comedic tones, and that is helped incredibly well by the cast. And the lead, well, kind of the lead, and he's sort of the lead of the group. He's not really the lead. Jay Muse, and this is probably the very last film Jay Muse did where he still looked like Jay Muse before he got the shrunken teeth and the goofy looking, sunken in face look. Clerks 2 afterwards, which I think this technically came out after Clerks 2. I don't know when the fuck he shot it. But
It was Clerks 2, like 2006, I think.
yeah, it's the same year as this. So this is 2007 according to the DVD. So who knows, maybe it was after Clerks 2, but either way, he looks more like the Jay of old. It's also got Pee Wee motherfucking Herman himself, Paul Rubens, playing the sleazy concert promoter who's putting on the hippie drug festival in the woods. It's got the Punisher himself, motherfucker was wrestling sharks, Tom Jane, as the
Not a
local
fan.
sheriff. You're not a fan?
No.
I'm a fan of him, and he's extremely strong in this. He's got a bitchin' handlebar mustache, and the dude pulls it off incredibly well. Uh, there's also some lesser names. They're probably pretty big names, but I'm not the most fucking well versed in them. I know I know the names, but I can't be like, oh, the person from that movie. Jamie King. I know that name is relatively familiar. Paz de la Huerta.
Oh,
I've heard that name.
yeah.
Uh, there's a couple others, but yeah, it's a fun movie. I would definitely recommend it. I give it a strong 7.5. The comedy works really well. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It does once the initial, like, the initial horror scene happens, it does take a little bit to get to the next one, but it's taking its time and setting up characters that, you grow to like, and you want to see what happens to him throughout the rest of the film. So I don't fault it in that regard. It's only an hour and like 37 minutes, so it's not, 7 minutes over 90. I'm not going to fault it too hard. Like I said, 7.5. Definitely recommend it. I do think you would enjoy it, despite your disdain for Tom Jane and Arquette being behind the camera.
Well, I mean, I don't have a disdain for him being behind the camera. I just, there's nothing that sparks my interest about it. You know what I mean? If I
Yeah.
saw this and I enjoyed it, I'd give him credit. But I mean, I'm
It
just
was
neutral on it, basically.
it was supposed to be one of those 8 horror films of whatever, that fest bullshit they were doing for a while there.
Yeah, yeah.
The DVD, like the Grave Dancers and all that. It was supposed to
Yeah.
be one of those, but Arquette was insistent that it get a 420 release date. And so they amicably parted ways so he could take it off and release it on his own. And he also, there's a DVD special feature of this. He toured the film around the country with the help of fucking MySpace. So he was like pre Kevin Smithing it. He was going around and like showing screenings of it as the crazy devoted look at this dumb movie I made guy. And when you see it and you see how like silly and off the wall and ridiculous it is, it makes David Arquette a little bit more charming.
Was Dewey a character,
Uh,
or was that just David Arquette?
I think he pro wrestling it. I think he just turned it up to 11. Like I know the real David Arquette likes to like obviously party and do drugs and shit, and I don't see Dewey doing that. So I think he just kind of turned up his boyish charm, as Dewey would call it.
Mm.
I believe he kind of turned up, the doofiness, the scary movie level, and turned down the like I'm gonna go to a rave
He's,
after this and fuck Courtney Cox in the asshole.
yeah. I mean, that's what Rose McGowan was trying to do on set too. But he was perfectly cast in Scream, man.
That he was. But
I
I'll
mean, do you
never
picture anyone else being Dewey?
I will say every single time I watch it, though, I want to see him throwing his ice cream cone and stomping on it, which is a scene from. Did they do that? It wasn't Scary Movie. I think it was Shriek. If you know what I did last Friday 13. One of those movies did a Dewey knockoff where he's eating an ice cream cone, and when the sheriff throws a cigarette down, he throws his fucking ice cream down.
Nah,
And
that's
stamps on
Scary
it.
Movie because I
Okay.
remember that.
Well, then, yeah, every single time I'm watching Scream, I want that to happen. I'm like, it's fucking perfect for the character. God damn it, why can't it happen? Go over the top, Wes. You made fucking Vampire in Brooklyn.
Well, speaking of a scary movie, I actually rewatched I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. Uh, for those unfamiliar, it was a 80s spoof from Keenan Ivory Wayans. Features a lot of the family, as usual, back then and to this day. Uh,
I
Still
thought they
great.
kicked Marlon out. He's going around
Marlon
that
and
white
Sean are
girls.
in this.
No,
Marlon and
I
Sean
thought
are
they
in
kicked
it.
him out of the family.
Uh,
He's
I
going
think
around talking
Keenan,
about white girls too for a while. They were just like, get the fuck out, man.
Keenan probably directed White Girls. I know he directed Little Man. What is with them? I noticed this in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker as well. They do have a thing against small people.
I mean,
That's the real
it's
look,
an
dude. We cancel
easy
the
target.
Wayans, cancel the easy target, dude. You have something against small people too, man.
I mean, seriously, it's an easy
Well,
target. What?
I guess technically they're a harder target since there's less to hit.
Well, but yeah,
But
but if they try to speak up though, their voices won't be heard as loud. So easy target.
dude, we need to intro this app with that Walk Hard song about stand up for the little people. But nah, I hadn't, I had not seen this film since I was at least a teenager.
Did you stream this off of something or is this physical media?
I streamed it. I don't own it on
Is the
anything.
uh is the aspect ratio fixed? Because I know the DVD is terrible.
Oh yeah, I mean I streamed it HD. It looked good.
Nice.
It was on Amazon Prime. I didn't even torrent it. I actually paid money because I was fearing what you were talking about. I was like, watch me just spend all night trying to find a copy, and it's some shit DVD. It was like $3. I was like, whatever, dude. I'm gonna contribute to the Wayans, a family I have no problem supporting, even though they have their fair share of dog shit,
Haunted house.
to, dude, amongst others. But they have given me in living color, I'm gonna get you, sucker, and don't be a menace. That's their. They've given me three classics. But yeah, revisiting this, I was shocked. I was still laughing. It's still solid. I may have liked it more now than I did as a kid. Uh, Maybe some things went over my head. I don't know. It's not perfect. I can say that. It kind of takes a little bit to get going, But once it gets going and all the basically, because I think there's a lot of characters to introduce, but once all the introductions are done and the story kind of gets going, man, it's a blast. I mean, as typical with any film in this spoof genre, in the, the Zaz team style, the airplane, Naked Gun, Top Secret, clearly what the Wayans were going for with this and their careers. um, not every joke will land, but the barrage of jokes you're gonna see, chances are, the ratio there of ones that will, every now and again, you're definitely gonna find something funny. For me, more works than doesn't. I am admittedly a fan of blaxploitation films, so even little in references or uh like when he's talking to what's his face, and he says the ex-football player or line. You know what I'm
Wasn't it
talking
Fred
about?
Williamson?
No, not Fred Williamson. It was
Was
Fred
Williamson in
Williamson
it
is
though?
no, he's not in it. It's
Okay.
fuck. Why am I Jim Kelly? Is that who I'm thinking? What the fuck? Yeah, baked. But yeah, like that, or the one scene, even though this isn't a blaxploitation reference, but the when Kim Wayans is on stage, and they're like, what the hell is she doing here? And she's like screaming, singing, and all that. It's like, it's the director's sister. And like cuts to Keenan, and he's like, just kind of, Keenan has like the goofiest demeanor to me. Like just seeing him next to other performers that I consider badass, or at least, come on, like Isaac Hayes, Jim Kelly. I mean, they all just have a presence. You know what I mean? And then you see Keenan's goofy, like smile next to
That
them.
ridiculous mustache he had.
Exactly, dude. Like I just look at that dude and laugh, man. Oh, and fucking was it Karate Kung Fu Joe? Arguably the funniest character.
It's been a while since I've seen it because, as I said, that DVD print is atrocious, and
Do you remember
I'm
Kung Fu
not
Joe
willing.
though?
I do not, but
It's like
I'm
towards the end, it's just the dude who comes out. He's like, "Yeah, Kung Fu Joe is joining us," and he just all of his movements are fucking karate and shit. Like, the way he speaks, it's ridiculous, man.
I do not remember that, but I do remember enjoying the film. I do remember, like you, thinking it's not a masterpiece. They hadn't quite perfected their spoof comedy stylings. I don't think they did. They didn't
I
do it
don't
until
know,
Don't Be a
man.
Menace.
Well, it's funny rewatching this. I've seen Don't Be a Menace a lot more. It came out, when when I was a teenager. It just hit at that right time. I was surprised how many jokes are recycled in Don't Be a Menace from this, or even like just deliberate setups and shots.
Yeah,
Dude,
but
the whole opening credits is like identical, the way
is
the
that
style.
is that a lack of creativity in writing, or is that a lack of writing in hood movies? Because both are spoofs of hood movies. It could just be a lack of
Black
diversity amongst
exploitation,
them.
black exploitation flicks. That's a totally different vibe than than Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society. I mean, they weren't dramas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's still a lot of the same elements. Dude comes back to the hood, shit's all fucked up, he has to fix it.
Nah, most of the movies Don't Be a Menace are parodying their like growing up films. They're uh adolescent, I mean, dude, that's what Menace to Society is. That's what Boys in the Hood is. That's pretty much, that was the theme of all, even Juice. It's teenagers, you know what I mean? They're coming of age movies.
Yeah, how
Whereas
old was
Black
fucking Keenan Ivory Wayans in this movie? Like 22?
I know, dude. He went away and he joined the army just because his mom would always show up and whoop everyone's ass for him. But then he was just a secretary because there's no war. Dude, I highly suggest whenever a decent print comes out of this that you just, man, get it immediately. Because if you liked it before, uh, it was, like I said, man, I think I enjoyed it more now than I did as a child. And,
It's probably been 3 or 4 years since I've last seen it, so it's not like it's
okay.
ancient history, but yeah, it's been a while. I picked up the DVD and I was like, ew, oh yeah, I forgot. I mean, I
Yeah.
sat through it, but it was still. I don't want to put it on the shelf. No special features either, so maybe a trailer. But yeah, a Blu-ray copy, or just a watchable DVD print needs to be
Yeah.
released by someone in the near future. But
I don't know what's holding it up. Maybe, I mean,
White chicks too. But on the note of Boys in the Hood, I paid a little revisit to a film starring a fella from that movie. The film in question is 1997's Anal Conda, featuring, of course, the Nice Cube. Uh,
mm,
have you ever seen this film, Roth? Anal Conda?
no.
Uh, the cast, I think the cast might get you, but uh, go ahead and cue bad impression. It does feature Owen Wilson.
I didn't know he was in Anaconda.
He is an anaconda for entirely too long. I thought his character died like it was one of the first ones knocked off. No, he lasts for a bit. It also, as you know, features one J Lo of group fame,
I
uh,
unfortunately knew that.
the aforementioned Nice Cube. Which a bit of side note from IMDb trivia, there are actually two allusions to the Nice Cube's music career in the film. At one point in the film, he's listening to a Mac 10 song, which he
Yeah,
co-wrote.
Mac 10. I mean, he was in a group with Mac 10, West Side Connection.
There's also his very first line of dialogue is "Today is a good day." So I
Jesus
believe you,
fucking Christ.
I believe you get that one.
I
It
would have
also
cringed even in 97 or whatever the fuck this was released.
it also features Rocky Dennis himself, Eric Stoltz,
I
uh,
wasn't aware of that.
the Mummy's own Jonathan Hyde, and some loser. I don't know. You ever heard of him, John Voight?
Mm, I don't know. I think he had sex once.
Probably. But as you likely know, it's a creature feature, so you know what you're getting going in. But I have to say, it's one of the better ones. It does feature some really primitive CGI, but there's enough actual practical animatronic snake that it cancels it out, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Uh, as I said, the Owen Wilson bit staying around for too long, that does, I'm taking points off for that because, I mean, he's Owen Wilson. It's surprisingly, though, Owen Wilson has a stronger filmography than Morgan Freeman. He's got this, and he's got Cable Guy, and that's two more than Freeman's got in my book.
You've never seen Street Smart
Never will.
with Superman and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, I'll never see that. But the Anaconda, like I said, some primitive CG, a decent plot. I mean, it's some people are going out to shoot some wildlife documentary on the Amazon and shit, and then they come across a wild John Voight doing a fucking atrocious accent. He would be canceled now if someone heard this shit. I don't know what he's going for, but I think he says he's from Paraguay, but it's like, dude, you're John Voight. No, you're
Dude, it was
not.
probably intentional too, man. John Voight's pretty wild in real life.
But But yeah, then he's all like, he diverts their plans of like, you're not making a nature documentary. We're gonna go fucking hunt anacondas, and then, as you would guess, a creature
Word.
feature, the anacondas strike back. Not perfect, watchable. I give it a 6.5, maybe a 7. If the bad CG and Owen Wilson weren't there, it would be a 7. It's holding it back a bit for me. 6.5, watchable film.
Oh yeah, for the nobody who's listening, if I had to rate, I'm gonna get you sucker. I'm gonna go 8 out of 10.
From
But on it,
memory, I would go 7 to 7.5.
yeah. Um, Anal Conda, when it came out, it just reeked of cheese, and not in the good way.
It's surprisingly not that cheesy, actually. It's kind of
Really.
it's pretty straightforward. It's the soundtrack, it's nothing to write home about, but it definitely, accentuates the action scenes in the film and kind of the adventure. They actually shot, I believe, in Brazil or something, not the actual Amazon, but weird
So,
enough that it's
it's a
not just a
location.
Hollywood backlot. Yeah. Although they did eventually go to some Hollywood set to shoot like the actual like underwater bits and shit. Because the Nice Cube wasn't jumping into the actual Brazilian fucking lake after talking about the fish that swims up your dick hole or whatever.
Shit, I don't
There's
blame him.
there's a line about that in the movie, but yeah, I mean it's like I said, there are the two Nice Cube references. So I mean, if you're a Nice Cube fan, you'll get those. But yeah, it's not really like it's not like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or nothing. Like people aren't really like spouting one-liners the entire time.
God,
Cheesy,
when did that die? That was so great.
what, the cheesy Arnold?
Yeah, just one-liners in general.
Uh,
I miss that.
Probably about the year 1999, 2000.
Yeah. That's really when cinema died.
Or it might be when it truly began. But moving on to the main focal point of this pod. You've read the title, you clicked on the link. This is what you're here for, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you the main event. Both myself and my co-host Roth have repaid a visit to what is widely considered a horror classic, 1993's Candyman, directed by Bernard whatever the fuck.
Herman.
There you go. Roth, it's most fresh on your mind, so I'll allow you to go into it. If you follow my channel, you might have seen both my unboxing and my rant about it, so some of these thoughts might be a bit familiar, but we'll have Roth now to bounce them off of and see where they go.
All right, you want me to just get right into it, or do you want me to speak on what I have already heard you say? That doesn't make sense. Nobody cares, so let me just begin. I think you're going to be disappointed, but I still think it's strong. I still think it's strong. If I had to rate it, 8.
Wow, that's
maybe
ridiculously too high.
Maybe an 8.5. What I did notice this time around is that, and I think this is through nostalgia and growing up with this movie and lumping it in, I guess, it's not a slasher movie, which I think it gets misplaced into. You know, it is more of a, I don't want to say Silence of the Lambs, but I mean, it's more in that vein.
It's
Or like
honestly,
the Entity. It's like the
yeah, it's
Entity,
honestly,
which
it's
I'm a
more
huge
about,
fan
it's
of.
more honestly just kind of a woman going crazy movie. Like the whole
Yes.
movie's just, we don't
Yes.
believe you, and she's like, fucking believe me, tearing her hair
Well,
out.
I'm going to say this. What's crazy about that, I never really, I don't know, I've always lumped this as a slasher in my mind, which, as you,
The sequels don't help.
no, but, oh, of course. But as you pointed out, Tony Todd's barely in the damn thing. uh, but I am a fan. Those are the kind of horror movies that honestly affect me the most. I'm never like truly scared by any horror movie, but any horror movie that kind of deals with people doubting the truth, like if you're alone and you know what's going on. And I like The Entity. I love that movie. One of my favorite horror movies is Polanski's Repulsion, which is the same damn thing. It's like a woman going insane and you're in her headspace the entire damn movie. I thought Friedkin's Bug was really effective. That's similar as well. Um, yeah, I kind of misremembered what this movie was tonally in that respect. And I have to admit, it still worked for me. It worked almost better than I remember. But I was kind of going in with the mindset of re-examining it since you had just watched it. And why don't you go into your thoughts a little? Because I was going in kind of prepped by you to look at its shortcomings, and I did notice them because I actually think all of your points are incredibly valid. I just think this comes down to I'm a bigger fan of that style of horror than you are. You know what I
One
mean?
one thing I want to point on that I didn't touch on in my rant video is none of the characters' motivations really line up with what they state they are, or with what reality states they should be. The main girl, Helen,
Hmm.
she's writing a fucking homework assignment, and she's like, "All right,
It
let's
is
go to
her
the ghetto."
thesis. It is her thesis.
Still,
Still,
still, it's a fucking college paper. It's a term paper. She's like, "Let's go to the ghetto." All right, that's step one. That makes sense. That's cool. You're going to investigate and taking pictures. Okay. Then she goes out and is it after that that she has her cigarette party, or is it after that that she goes to the bathroom?
there was a few cigarette parties there in the beginning.
Well,
It doesn't really matter, but go ahead.
there's a cigarette party where a colleague of hers, she's acting super confident about her paper, talking about how she's gonna blow him out of the water and shit. And he's like, "Oh, do you know any of the details or facts?" And she's like, "No." And then he fucking completely schools her on everything that she did not research, instead of just going out and taking pictures of a decrepit bathroom in the hood. Uh, uh, Next up, she goes and basically she kidnaps a small black child from the ghetto, and regardless of what you think, the kid leaves his home and is with her for hours. He eventually ends up at a police station. She fucking kidnapped that kid, bro. Uh,
Wait, how did you get hours from that?
Well, how long do you think it takes to get fucking beat up, gang raped in a fucking bathroom, taken to a police station, interviewed, and then released? That doesn't happen over like
But
instantly, dude.
so wait, you're blaming the victim here? How did she kidnap somebody if she was like beaten unconscious in a
She
bathroom?
fucking the kid
He
didn't want
called
to
the
help.
cops.
The kid was like, "Yo, I don't want no part of this. Candyman will get me." And she's like, "Come on, what are you scared?" She fucking coerced the kid into it. That is fucking kidnapping. If you go up to a kid and say, "Oh, you want to get in my van?" and the kid's like, "No," and you're like, "What are you scared?" and the kid gets in, that's fucking kidnapping, Roth.
Dude, they
Uh,
didn't even leave the property though. They were on the projects in that bathroom.
no,
And then she got the
that
shit
was
kicked out of her.
clearly they cross the street. They cross the street. They are clearly not on the property. But anyway, she goes into a fucking shit covered bathroom. Uh, a knockoff Candyman comes in, and first off, he smacks her in the side of the head with a hook, and it doesn't impale her brain. Okay. Uh,
Nah, there's a big puddle of blood when she's like done when the kid walks back in.
yeah, but
I
it,
thought and her eye looked fucking terrible. I thought they did that well.
eh. But after that, she's already gone to the hood and got pictures, realized she doesn't know any of the facts, still hasn't researched any of the facts, went back to the hood, got beat up and potentially gang raped, decides it's a good idea. Hold on. She receives information from her friend
Let's
that
also hold on. The gang rape is implied at best. You're kind of adding something to it.
I mean, it could have happened, but
Okay.
either way, she's laying on a diarrhea covered floor, not a good place to be in, with a hole in your head. Her friend ends up informing her that, oh, your fucking paper is now going to get published into a book. You're going to get a fucking book deal out of this. And she's like, great, I'm going back to the ghetto to go crawl through that apartment some more and look at this hole.
Wait, no, dude. When she's informed about the book, that's when Candyman comes to her. Remember, they're like going to the car, and then that's when that's when the Freddy vs. Jasoning stuff starts happening, where she cuts the dog's head off or whatever. That's like right after she's been told, and then Candyman uses her. So I'll give.
She goes back later. I know there's a later scene where she intentionally goes back with her shitty fucking little like disposable camera.
That's before that, though, man.
Either way, all of this for a fucking college paper that if she would have just went to like an actual research department and did the work instead of just going out and try to make some sensationalistic piece, she could have actually written the paper. So that character motivation completely does not line up for me. Trash.
But let me stop you on something there, though. Now, from my review, I'm giving it an 8, maybe an 8.5. I'm not giving it a 10 because you're right, dude. In these kinds of movies, that is shit character motivation, sure. But let's not admit that this doesn't occur in basically every horror movie of that time, and that this is actually pretty strong and does a good job of not only bringing the story together through, how do I say this? Like through that narrative of her and then being in her headspace, like what we were talking about earlier. But it also has bigger things on its plate, some social commentary, which I know, or I believe you probably aren't a fan of in this. I mean, dude, its ambitions are high and it succeeds more. For a movie that has Ted Raimi in it, this movie's ambitions are high and it succeeds more often than it fails. Uh, I don't know. I think if we nitpick little things like that, like Nightmare on Elm Street's one of my favorite movies of all time, I could nitpick character motivations in that.
Nancy wants to stay alive. That's a character motivation. I understand. I'm not conflicted by the main character's motivation. It's a better horror film, default.
It is a
But
better
moving
film.
on to further characters' motivations, Candyman, the title character, he repeatedly talks throughout the film about how his name will be remembered on and his legend will live forever, and he will never die because the name Candyman will always be feared amongst whoever. Yet instantly he pins his crimes on other people. He's letting imposters walk through the hood, do whatever the fuck they want. He's
No, but
pinning
that's
everything on this Helen bitch, which yeah,
yeah.
it's trying to fuck her
He's
life all up.
playing yeah, and playing her and reinstilling the fear in the community of him because everyone knows everybody there knows it's real and he's getting revenge on this chick who basically tried to ruin his mystique, you know what I mean? There's motivation there and setting
Ah,
her up and fucking with her. Hell yeah.
I don't
And
buy it.
that's more the social commentary stuff about a white woman in this
See, that's
situation.
that's the only element I think works, and that's also the only time I think the social commentary in the film works is with that role reversal of the setup. But further away from just the motivations, they they don't ever fully establish what his powers are or how he can use them, and
That
that
I'll give you.
yeah,
That's
that
definitely
ruins
true.
everything. At the very beginning of the film, Ted Raimi says Candyman 4 times. Uh, he gets pussed out and goes downstairs, and he's waiting to get boned. Girl upstairs with no tits is getting ready to turn off the light. She says Candyman 1 times. So that's 4 Candymans by one person,
Okay.
one by a different person. Candyman appears, instantly knifes her. So
Fucking Gremlins did this better.
which granted, this can be argued that this is a recollection from a college student at the beginning, but still it's set up as a way that they're presenting the mythology of the character to you. They should not do it in a fraudulent way if that's their intention.
I agree.
Moving on to further in the film, when the Helen character states Candyman 5 times clearly on her own, uh, Candyman takes what, 37 minutes or something after that to show up into the movie.
But yeah, that's true. Why doesn't he just kill her right off the bat?
Exactly. Why does he
Because
feel the need to
if he would have
torment her
killed
and
her
traumatize her?
if he would have killed her right off the bat when she first said Candyman 5 times, she would have never gone to the fucking place, to the projects, and ruined his image and ruined his tale anyway.
Exactly. So if
He could have saved himself some
at
time.
best he's a flawed moronic character. At worst, it's just terrible screenwriting by Clive Barker. Which one do you think it is, Roth? Uh,
I
they
don't think
they
it's that
also
bad. Dude, I said this to you off air. Beetlejuice, a classic. Same shit. That movie has ridiculous. All of a sudden, he has to get married at the end of it. What the
but again,
fuck?
I've
You
said
say
this off air.
Beetlegeist, but not Beetlejuice, blah, 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 blah. But we still love it. We still love it.
Again, I said this off air. Beetlejuice is presented as a comedy, whereas you
Of
just
course.
stated seconds ago this is a serious woman going crazy,
Yeah.
social commentary filled, basically drama. So when
And
you
I'm not
try
saying,
to
and I agree with you, dude. Like, you should have set up the rules, or they should have set up the rules better. I agree that it's sloppy. Like I said, I'm not giving this movie a fucking 10, but I'm just saying, like, for a movie in this genre, I have seen plenty worse, especially with like the consistency of logic within. And I mean, I think you're going a little hard on some of this stuff. I mean, you even gave the intro it out by saying this is a college student's recollection. I mean, some of this stuff isn't that crazy.
all
The
right,
actual
well,
Candyman mythos, though, I'm with you on. It is confusing, and it is kind of like, what can he do? What can he do? What does he want to do? What, you know what I mean? It's kind of almost unclear in certain parts.
one more point on the 5 time Candyman sayings. Uh, does it ever cancel out? Like, do you run out of time when you say Candyman 5 times? Because she says it 5 times, and then she's drugged for a month, and she lives perfectly fine. Candyman doesn't show up and kill her. She's on Thorazine for a month. He could show
But
up
at,
at any point in time, do anything he wants to her.
but
He
at
does
that
not.
point, he's fucking with her. At that point, it's established that he's setting her up.
I guess, but still, then she says Candyman 5 times, and again, he instantly shows up. So once again, they're breaking their own rules and their own established whatever. And then,
Well,
not to
nah, they're
mention,
breaking. See, I'm with you on that. They're not breaking any rules. They just haven't fucking established any, so we don't know what the hell is going on. Like, what Kenny? It's. I agree. It's sloppy. I agree.
there's
I'm with you on that. That's
there's
sloppy.
also the entire notion of him repeatedly stating throughout the film that he's dead, he's a ghost. He's teleporting numerous times throughout the film. He's there, he's not there. He's always over here now. You can hear him, but he's not there. Shit like that. Uh, there's a scene about 15 to 20 minutes before the finale where Chick takes a hook and stabs him in the neck. And he completely no sells it. He doesn't feel it. He's Candyman. He feels no pain, bitch. Uh, cut to spoilers, the very end of the film, where for some reason he's no longer teleporting. He's feels the need to chase her on foot. Uh, she grabs a burning table. For whatever reason, they're both like, let's crawl under this fucking burning rubble. Which I know he was like, let's throw the baby under there or whatever, but why the fuck did he chase in after?
Yeah.
Uh, she grabs a burning table leg, literally pokes him in the belly, in the midsection, and he freaks the fuck out. And that kills him. Then his jacket's catching on fire, and oh my god, he can't teleport out of here. He's not, he's not a non-corporeal being. He's not a ghost. He hasn't been stating that he's a fucking ghost for the past, 6 minutes that he was on screen.
True.
Uh, and then he burns to death, and that's the end. And then Not to mention, he's essentially replaced with the Helen character at the end, which completely, I know this isn't this movie's fault, but it completely negates any of the sequels. Like, why the fuck do we care what Candyman did? He was just completely replaced by the,
Mm.
Mr. Blonde's fucking little sister and shit.
But
And
yeah,
that
you can't
shit's,
fault that on the original though.
but still, that shit just wouldn't be as cool saying Helen 5 times in a fucking mirror, you know what I mean? Like,
Like I said, I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I think the typical almost slasher elements of the movie, or the Freddy Krueger-ish, like how do you kill this guy? What are the rules type stuff isn't particularly well done. But I think Tony Todd is excellent in the role. I think he's the limited screen time he has. He owns it. I am a fan of the psychological horror aspect, and I'm a slasher fan. So even though it kind of falls short on that slasher ghost type part, I mean, I don't think it falls incredibly short, but it does. I recognize these shortcomings you're talking about. I think the other psychological part, it like more than balances out in this movie's favor. Like I said, man, I kind of went in expecting to, you know, like when I was hearing what you were saying, I was laughing at it, and a lot of what you're saying is true. But maybe I guess I'm still forgiving of it, or I don't know. I'm surprised. I would give this an 8, solid 8 for me.
I stand by my 5. At best, the movie is watchable. It is the weakest of the 3 Clive Barkers that I own, and honestly, it might soon be the 2 Clive Barkers I own.
Wow. Yeah, I'd say I'm not a Barker fan, but the other two, I believe, that round out your trilogy are Lord of Illusions and what's the other one?
The Midnight Meat Train, which
I've seen
uh,
neither.
I had ranked Midnight Meat Train below Candyman before revisiting it, but after revisiting it and realize how sloppily the mythology is handled and how nothing is presented in any way believable, for me at least. Yeah, Midnight Meat Train wins out because while Midnight Meat Train is a muddied mess that makes no fucking sense, it acknowledges that it makes no fucking sense. It's not trying to be like, look at how clever and, all these dramatic performances and all this shit. And then it's just like, no rules. No, it's just going in like Brad Cooper's got a camera and he's going to see Vinnie Jones doing some goofy shit. And it just
Yeah.
acknowledges it. And I don't know.
See
I
it
think,
already. I still, like, I'm not even interested in it like that
yeah,
from that description.
if I had to tell you to watch any of them, it would be Lord of Illusions. That will
That I'm
always be
interested in.
the greatest Clive Barker thing ever, in my opinion.
And that actually carries some weight for me because you and I believe, are similar on. Hellraiser 1 and 2. They're just okay to me. I don't love
I
Nightbreed.
I
Is
cannot stand the first Hellraiser.
it's okay.
It's a boring slogfest for me. It's
See, that's for me a boring slogfest is My Bloody Valentine, which our buddy Will's gonna, I think, drop in any second. Uh, but no, I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely like not worth owning for me. I never want to rewatch it anytime it's, referenced or anything like that.
yeah, the first
Night,
Hellraiser is not good, but I enjoy the second one, but the first one's lameness kind of negates owning it or ever wanting to see it again as well.
yeah, and then Nightbreed. I think, see, to me, Nightbreed's kind of a mess. It's too silly for me. I don't know.
I've never seen it. I've owned it, but I've had no desire to put it in and attempt it.
It's long, dude. I mean, I don't know what cut. I forget, dude. Nightbreed's like the Blade Runner of shit. There's like 13 different goddamn cuts
Wait,
of
wait,
this
wait.
movie.
You're saying Blade Runner isn't the Blade Runner of shit?
All we are tears and shit.